Welcome to Hypnosis Today, the nation's first web TV talk show that explores the fascinating world of hypnotherapy. My name is Lisa Mackenberg, and I will be your host, covering a wide variety of subjects to help you understand the power of the subconscious mind and how hypnosis is being used today to help people achieve success, happiness, and prosperity. It is my pleasure to introduce you to my first two guests. Well, my first guest is Chiara Maripodi, and she is a graduate of HMI College of Hypnotherapy, where she attended the distance school. And she is also the author of Gut, Brain, and Emotion Dance. And that article will appear in the November 2012 issue of Healthy Times. And she has with her her very special guest, Greg. Now, Greg came to see Chiara for personal development and turning goals into plans. Please help me welcome my guests. Thank you. Well, Greg, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about your goals.
Well, I had goals of starting and completing projects. And I also had some goals of clearing up unfinished business and staying current with things. So those are the two main areas that I was really seeking some help in.
And what had you tried before?
Well, you know, I was familiar with hypnosis. I had gone to two different therapists on two different occasions many years ago.
Were they hypnotherapists or traditional therapists?
They were hypnotherapists, but it was quite different than my experience with Chiara, as I came to find out recently. I've always understood the power of the mind and the power of the subconscious mind specifically. So I was aware of the benefits and the value that could be attained. I just hadn't experienced anything quite like the results that I got when I started having some sessions with Chiara.
Well, this is really interesting, and after you'd been with the other two hypnotherapists, you were ready to try something new. How did you find Chiara?
Well, we had known each other. She was a friend, a trusted friend that decided, you know, she encouraged me to try some sessions. And as it turned out, I really noticed a difference after just a few sessions. Actually, after the very first session, I felt that even during the session, I was in a much better place to receive what might be helping me get past some of the barriers that I felt that I had in moving forward, making some progress.
Well, it sounds to me like you used some very interesting techniques. When you're helping a client turn goals into reality or aligning actions with goals, tell me what kind of techniques you use.
Well, I think the best technique, there were two techniques that I used throughout the sessions that we had together. And I use these for clients who do come to me for goal setting and for purposes of completing things that have seemed incomplete in the past and not being able to move forward. So you have the barriers to change, to positive change to move forward. So the first one that I use is actually making their own house. Now, the house, the way I see it and the way the subconscious mind sees it, it's a representation of them as a person. The garden, the foundations, the door to enter the house, the windows, how they are made. Are they square? Are they round? What is the internal nature of the house? Is it a wooden floor? All these very, very intricate details will represent the new scripts that the person wants to make. So this is what we go through, and you know, it's very interesting because we always talk about opening the door to the subconscious mind. And, you know, that door at the start, the first session, is very important. The door, the way they open it, what it looks like, does it have a name on it? What is the name? How have they named their house? And we go and we clean out the house, and then we make it and rebuild it the way that they want it to appear, the way they want their life to be.
So, Greg, I want to ask you, using this very interesting and metaphorical image, what was this like for you, and how was this different from the hypnotherapy that you had experienced before?
You know, before I felt that I wasn't as receptive. I didn't feel as relaxed, actually. I felt almost like I was going through some motions rather than being in a more of a state of receiving and a high level of awareness. And so it was interesting to feel so relaxed, but yet be so aware. And I hadn't quite experienced that before in the past.
And using a metaphor like a house and not being quite so direct, how do you think the conscious and the subconscious mind was able to interpret this to be able to actually take the action steps to move forward in your pursuits?
How did it actually happen? Well, that's a really good question. I can tell you what I experienced.
Tell me.
Okay, one of the things that I experienced is that it seemed like there was so much more ease when I was looking at a future project and trying to set deadlines to complete that project. And then I could specifically recall that one day I said, you know, I've got a lot of unfinished things that I have to do. And it doesn't require much research to actually complete this project. And it was just basically unfinished business that I had to do. And one day I just started with one and moved to the other. And these literally were little things that were, you know, from years back that had to be taken care of that weren't pressing. But as a friend of mine once said, you know, you shouldn't even use the energy of one neuron on that project. And so I was just keeping it in the back of my mind and writing it down. And just because you write it down, it doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Absolutely. And I want to just compliment Kiera, because it's really interesting that we know that people are different. Some people respond to very direct suggestions, like you will get up and you will go and you will do that minor task you've been putting off for years. Some people respond to inferred suggestions, or build a house, clear out the stuff you don't need, and complete that project in that house by putting in those new wooden floors that you've always been meaning to do. And it sounds like you picked up on which type of suggestions Greg would be more suggestible to and turn into action.
But we had a secret room as well.
Tell me about the secret room.
And in the secret room, and this was, I love this, because the secret room is a room that has an invisible door on the wall. The only person that can see it is the client. And you go into this room, and there you can actually release barriers that we have spoken about in the beginning of the session, where we do a lot of speaking and listening and talking. And there are some stairs, and at the end of the stairs there's a magical cloak, which has some magical and also invisible abilities that is always with the client to give them motivation. And it's a very special room, their only room.
What did you find in your secret magic room?
Actually, I don't remember.
But tell me about the results.
Oh, well, here's what I learned about Kiera. In the first session, she has a special skill set that she was able to ask me some questions and gather an awful lot of information in a very short period of time. So I felt that her approach was very special in the sense that she knew and was able to focus on areas after we had talked a little bit that were really a priority. And when she showed me actually what we were going to be working on, I said that boils it right down to really what I've been looking at and wanting to improve.
So how many years were you wanting to complete this project before you met Kiera?
Well, different projects of different lengths, but I'm just so impressed with the value that I've gotten from the sessions. You know, I couldn't recommend anybody more highly, because it was a simple process, and you expect to see results, but my results really were quite tangible and quite obvious. It's like you want to continue the process because you know you want other areas in your life to move forward as well as the progress that you've already seen.
Talk to us about how you can really listen to a client and find the common denominators to know what to work on in hypnosis.
Well, this is an art, I think, and I think the biggest thing would be to listen. Not just listen to what the client is saying verbally, but what are they not saying verbally? What do they actually mean when they use certain words? And I know that hypnosis and the subconscious mind is about numbers and words and symbols. So understanding what is it that they're actually saying and grasping the meaning. Because sometimes they'll say something and they'll mean something else. So that is the art of listening and really understanding why the client has come to see you.
Absolutely. You know, I love having people come on this show because there's so many people in so many different fields that may be cautious or skeptical about hypnotherapy. What would you want to say to those people?
I would say be open-minded about it because, you know, everybody procrastinates. And this has really helped me a lot with some of my procrastination. I think everybody has excuses. It's pretty universal within us. You know, they just show up in different ways, and sometimes they look like such good excuses it doesn't even look like an excuse. So, you know, who doesn't need help in procrastination and getting rid of their excuses? You know, you've got some barriers, you've got an old program, an old script. Be open to changing it, you know? Why not?
That is excellent, and I agree. But you know what? It looks like we need to take a short break. But Kiara, everybody's going to want to know more about your hypnosis and certainly about the art of listening, not only to what the client says, but what the client doesn't say. Not only what the client says, but what the client means. And you can reach Kiara Maripodi on hmigrads.com. I want to thank my guest, Kiara. I want to thank my guest, Greg, for coming on and talking about his experience. But after our short break, we're going to come back and meet another HMI grad who's going to teach us how we can use hypnosis to overcome a fear of flying. And she brought with her a very special guest who did just that. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Hypnosis Today. Please help me welcome my guests.
Thank you.
Well, Greg, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about your goals.
Well, I had goals of starting and completing projects. And I also had some goals of clearing up unfinished business.
My name is Lisa Mackenberg, and I will be your host, covering a wide variety of subjects to help you understand the power of the subconscious mind and how hypnosis is being used today to help people achieve success, happiness, and prosperity. It is my pleasure to introduce you to my first two guests. Well, my first guest is Kiara Maripodi, and she is a graduate of HMI College of Hypnotherapy, where she attended the distance school. And she is also the author of Gut, Brain, and Emotion Dance. And that article will appear in the November 2012 issue of Healthy Times. And she has with her very special guest, Greg. Now, Greg came to see Kiara for personal development and turning goals into plans. Welcome to Hypnosis Today, the nation's first web TV talk show that explores the fascinating world of hypnotherapy.
Staying current with things. So those are the two main areas that I was really seeking some help in.
And what had you tried before?
Well, you know, I was familiar with hypnosis. I had gone to two different therapists on two different occasions many years ago.
Were they hypnotherapists or traditional therapists?
They were hypnotherapists, but it was quite different